All right, we're here with Alan Sundermeier of Ohio State University's Extension, and he is an educator with them. Alan, good to meet with you. Tell us just very broadly about your work over here at OSU.
Well, as based in Northwest Ohio, I try to look at the cropping systems. I'm very interested in the sustainability of our farming.
Okay.
And I think the soil health, soil quality issue is very important to long-term viability of our agricultural production.
Okay.
You look, in past history, downfall of civilizations, a lot of it is based on their abuse of soils.
Right.
So I think it's a critical time as we're getting into the very high input type of agriculture that we're losing the focus on the health of our soils. And if we're not careful, this is going to have big ramifications for us in the future.
Okay.
So now's the time to start looking at these issues, see if we can correct it and maybe improve upon our farming methods.
Okay. Well, Alan, sustainability, what does that mean? You talk about sustainable systems. What does that actually mean to you then?
Well, one concern, we're so focused on short-term results that we lose the concept of what we're destroying over long-term.
Okay.
So sustainability means you can maintain and keep improving, and as we leave the farm for the next generation, we're leaving it better than what we started with.
Okay, and that's, okay, yes. Okay.
So if we don't realize that in long-term, we may have to sacrifice a little bit of short-term gain for the benefit of the long-term. Now we need to feed the world. We have a lot of pressure to make income on the farms, but I think we can do both.
Okay.
We can make current profits, and we can look at the future and maintain and improve our soils for that next generation to also improve on.
Okay. Before we talk about sort of some of the messages that you have for farmers, tell us a little bit about the research that you're managing on this farm over here.
Yeah, one thing that with the Ohio Agricultural Research Development Center, we're trying to look at new ideas and apply them to practical application. So back in 1962, some of the herbicides were coming on the market, and they thought, can we do long-term no-tillage? Triplett and Van Dorn were two scientists looking at tillage and weed control that collaborated on this, and they looked at 3 locations in Ohio, at Wooster, Ohio, Northwest Ohio, and Central Ohio, and set up some long-term plots. And through the wisdom of our administrators, we've maintained these plots.
So how long is that now?
It's over 50 years.
Over 50 years. Okay, wonderful. Okay, yes.
Currently, the principal investigator, Dr. Warren Dick, is in charge of the plots. I happen to be located close here in my county, so I'm able to help gather data and kind of help oversee here locally and make sure that we continue on the good tradition that was started, because long-term plots are very valuable because it takes time to see soil differences and the soil quality benefits.
All right, so tell us a little bit about that now. What are you seeing with your own eyes?
Well, as the soil naturally stratifies itself, you see the differences in the nutrient content from the surface to deeper in the soil. Tillage, which some of the plots were tilled,
yes,
is going to have more compaction.
Yes.
You're going to see a lowering of the surface, actually lowers down compared to the no-till.
So we'll be able to see that today as well?
There's an elevation difference in those plots.
There's an elevation difference between the no-till and tilled plots?
Right.
Okay, and that's just because we've got the pore space has been squashed out.
Yeah, you just over time, and continuous no-till loosens the soil and actually adds some organic matter back to the soil.
Okay.
So that's what causes some of that elevation difference.
All right.
We're looking at different rotations with this also.
Okay.
Continuous corn, soybean, and corn, oats, and clover,
yes,
which is an old rotation, not used a lot, but that would simulate what we're trying to do with cover crops currently.
Okay.
And those are seeing the differences in the soil organic matter content, and of course, the structure changes.
So which system then really looks the best to you? Is there any particular?
Well, surprisingly, the continuous corn no-till is almost equal to the corn, oats, hay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Adding that much residue back
yes,
into the soil and
yes,
the surface, and having the microbial action, the earthworms, it is really helping that soil. Of course, the worst is where we're doing the moldboard plowing and doing a lot of that compaction and going with corn and soybeans. That still seems to be about the worst scenario of these experiments.
Okay, and are you seeing yield differences as well?
Yes, we're seeing significant difference in all those cropping systems where the continuous corn and the corn oats hay maintain themselves at the top economically and with corn yields.
Okay. Tell me about soil moisture. Are you seeing difference are you monitoring soil moisture in the field as well?
Well, you can see that at planting time, where we're trying to keep these plots uniform as far as their planting date and harvest date, so we have equalness there.
Okay.
So it's a challenge. You know, the no-till you would expect to be a little more moist because it's got more organic matter in the spring, but it's not out of reason as far as the planting time.
Got it.
In the fall, we are getting good dry down with the moisture of our grains, so that's not a big factor.
Okay.
So I don't think, you know, saying that continuous no-till prevents me from timely planting, we have not seen that.
Okay, all right. Alan, when you are, a lot of your work is education. When you're talking to farmers, what are you telling farmers about soil health?
Well, we're trying to tell the farmers that you cannot solve your problems with steel.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
You know, steel is shiny, you can put your hand on it, you can spend a lot of money on steel, and they tend to get a good feeling when they spend their money and they think they're getting something accomplished by stirring up the soil. And even with a subsoiler that may have minimal surface disturbance, it's really not solving the problem. You know, we're seeing that soil structure can be better solved by using natural rooting systems through our cover crops or continuous no-till from the cropping systems. And we have some other experiments here that are proving that. We have some compaction plots comparing subsoil steel versus living cover crops, and the cover crops are outdoing the steel.
And can you tell us a little bit more about that? How's that working?
Well, we're purposely compacting these plots in the fall under moist soil conditions by using a grain cart and going back and forth over the plots and forcing that compaction. And then the cover crops are planted, and then we're comparing that to using a subsoiler, and our yields are showing better results with the cover crops.
Okay, so you're actually planting the cover crop into that compacted soil, and then you're comparing that to regular tillage.
Right.
What are you measuring in those plots then?
Well, yield, of course, is the bottom line, but we're getting penetrometer and bulk density and some of the other soil measurements just to show the drastic differences. And of course, when you get some heavy rains, you can see standing water problems, you know, that show up between the compaction levels of the plots also that way.
Oh, that's great. The effectiveness of cover crops. Tell me some of the best cover crops you've found, the best species you're finding for reducing that soil compaction. Do you have any particular ones that you feel are more effective?
Initially, with the cover crop systems for compaction, we focused on individual ones. Cereal rye, of course, is a good old standby. Now we're tending to look more at mixtures to try to get the benefits. Oilseed radish is a very good example of something that can push right down through and relieve some of that compaction. But we like to also include some legumes to feed the radish so it can grow deeper and better. So winter pea or crimson clover added to that, along with like a cereal rye. Seems to make a nice three-way basic combination there to help compaction.
So some kind of brassica, a winter grass, and then
legume.
A legume, okay. Or maybe not a winter grass, but a cool season grass out here.
Right. So these all need to be timely planted. You know, we're looking at overseeding cover crops in the standing crop before harvest to get maybe a 30-day start to get that growth started earlier, to get more rooting through the winter time. So a lot of innovation is happening. It's really an exciting time for the soil quality, because farmers are seeing that, hey, there's different ways we can improve our soils by adding cover crops, you know, by not going to steel, by reducing our tillage. A lot of good innovative thinking, I think, is happening.
Yeah. So do you have any particular farmers that, and you don't need to mention their names, but do you have any particular success stories with farmers that you'd like to mention who say, listen to something that you guys had to say and then began to see it on their farms?
But one aspect of Northwest Ohio soils is that they're very level and very high clay content,
Yes.
so we have problems with drainage.
Yes.
And they tend to put a lot of tile subsurface drainage in, and some farmers are saying, I cannot get my tile close enough and I still have, water problems on my surface.
Yes.
Farmers that are using cover crops or going more no-till are seeing that water percolate through the soil much better.
Okay.
And tend not to need more tile.
Okay.
Other farmers are saying, well, I just need to put more and more tile in to solve these drainage problems, but it's not working.
Okay.
We still see soybeans, above the tile, they're growing okay, 10 feet away from the tile, the plant height is low in standing water.
Yes, yes.
That should drain. The problem is the structure of the soil is so poor, the water's not getting to the subsurface tile.
Okay, okay.
So farmers that are naturally loosening that soil are having much better success.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Alan, I appreciate you spending some time. I'm looking forward to going to see some of these plots over here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Good job.